Hello and welcome to this episode of Microchips, and today we have a special video with actually two radios in it, two classic radios. So let's get on with the first one. As you can see, this is a Cobra 148 GTL-DX, but this isn't any old Cobra. This is a Jentec Cobra P1, I believe, done by Mr. John Nugent, a legend in his own time, making these radios. This one's got quite a bit of extra functionality. It's got all the 11 meter bands, it's got 10 meter bands, and in position B it locks it to UK 40 and disables all the rest of the buttons. So as you can see, it's had a custom front fitted, or custom decal fitted to it, as most of these did. Now the fault that's been reported with this is that it loses receive when you wiggle the channel change. So let's see if we can get it to do that. And sure enough, something is happening when we... There we go. So not only is it losing receive audio, the actual S meter's changing as well, which makes me think it's losing a lot more than just RX audio. But we'll keep... There we go. So it's when you move anywhere close to the channel change, this happens. So we've definitely got a loose connection somewhere. Well, I hope it's a loose connection. So let's see if we can find what the problem is. So there's some markings and some dates inside the lid. Got there, 87. I think that must be the serial number. Some other number. And there we have the very, very neat and tidy board that we made. Very nice. It's actually very nice to see. And the frequency counter add-on has been done very neatly as well, so that's nice to see. Variable power has been brought out to the front. We have a board in the middle with a relay, some transistors and a potentiometer, and that switches in and out. When you're on band B, it locks everything down, stops you going to USB, LSB, puts you onto straight 40, and that potentiometer is the offset adjust for the UKFM. And there's our EEPROM board. Not sure what the potentiometer does on that, we're not going to touch it, but again, very tidy, very nice EEPROM. So let's see if we can find our fault. So going anywhere near this wiring harness at the front, you can hear the tone changes and goes off. So we really don't have to touch it very heavily at all, just very, very light touching. So it's really going on and off when you go anywhere near that mode selector. So I think we're going to have to take a closer look at that area, see if there's anything obvious. Sure enough, as I was looking round, I spot this. There's our culprit. A loose wire. And you can hear if we put the wire back on the connection, our audio comes back. Nice easy fix. So I've put it all back together again. I've given it a quick check over on the frequency counter. The customer didn't want the RX or TX messing with, as it was working perfectly. But I just give it a quick once over just to make sure that everything was within specification, and everything was. So yeah, it was nice to have this Jentec Cobra, or should we say Cobra P1, on the bench. Nice to see a little bit of radio history there. So anyway, on to the next radio, which is going to cause us just a little bit more headache. So here we have it, a President Adams, and I've got to say, what a beast of a radio this is. And for you eagle-eyed people there, you'll notice that the channel display has been changed, and yes, this has had a Mora modification fitted to it. So it's got full frequency display, channel change has been changed. As you can see, full frequency readout. Now it flickers on the camera, it doesn't flicker in real life, just because of the shutter on the camera, that's all. But as you can see, it goes all the way from 26 to all the way up. And with the push of the channel change, we can step it a lot quicker. So the reported fault on this is that it works fine on LSB, but USB and AM, we have no transmit. And obviously AM has FM as well with a Mora board, but if AM doesn't work, then FM certainly is not going to work. So what's going to be our problem? So we are receiving, but as I was messing about with the AM FM switch, I noticed that it was dirty. So my initial thought was is this switch dirty? Because, you know, these switches are 40 odd year old, and yes, they're probably corroded and tarnished a little bit. So I'm thinking, could this be our problem? Only one way to find out, and that's get the lid off and let's have a look inside this old radio. First off, we have there the speakers not mounted to the case, which is nice. Makes for a nice easy removal. And everything in there looks really nice and tidy. So there's the replacement channel change. Our switches. There's the Mora FM board. And there's the Mora frequency display board. So definitely a very neat install there, very neat. So getting these switches out was a total pain. I didn't want to have to disturb too much in case I cause myself any more issues. But it wasn't that, and I managed to clean them. So I had a quick word with one of my friends, and he said, check the crystals. Check the 7.7975 and 7.8025 crystals. See whether they're working, because one of them is USB and one of them is LSB, and the LSB one works and the USB doesn't work. So he said, just check that, follow the service manual. So I got the frequency counter on the correct test point. Started measuring the frequencies. So there's our test point, buried down there. So there's our LSB crystal, working just fine. And we switch it to USB and nothing. So it looks like the crystal's gone. So my friend said, just switch the crystals round. Just switch them round. The offset it'll be wrong, but it'll prove a point. And sure enough, I switched the crystals round and it works just fine. So we have a bad crystal.
3 days later.
After getting a crystal. So I had a shout out on my group. Nice member of the group sent me a crystal. So here's our fault again. So there's our LSB crystal, and switching into USB, nothing happens. So here's our replacement crystal. Well, let's pop it in and see what happens. So luckily these crystals are just plug in. We can just literally unplug it and plug the new one in. So there's our LSB and there's our USB. Beautiful. So that was a fault, just a bad crystal. Now these crystals are getting a little bit more hard to find. Anyway, we've tidied up the inside of the radio, put some cable ties back on, made it nice and neat. So we put it back together, giving it a quick frequency test, everything was fine. So there, we have a nice radio fully working again. Again, nice piece of history here. Not sure how old this more a modification is, but the radio itself is certainly vintage, should we say. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, join the Facebook group, buy me a coffee, join Patreon, and we'll see you in the next video.